So today we're proud to introduce one of our newest attorneys at AG Clymer, Mitchell and Portman, and a familiar face to those in Southern Ohio. Stephen Comer is joining our Jackson office. Stephen, welcome back. How's it feel to come full circle growing up here in Jackson and, you know, coming back to your legal career right where it all began?
It's a little weird, little surreal. I actually grew up in kind of the workers' comp field and a law office from I think I was 2 weeks old. First time I was in a law firm. My great uncle practiced in Portsmouth, Ohio, and also had a Jackson office. So I was in and out of workers' comp offices quite a bit as a kid. And it was always kind of the running joke I was going to be the next attorney in the family to take over the workers' comp kind of field. So it's a little surreal to finally be here and can say I've made it.
Absolutely. I mean, to achieve any goal that you have from childhood is good, but let alone one that is so applicable. What type of stands out to you most about your community there that makes you even more satisfied to serve them?
It's a small town, not quite the technology driven kind of town like Columbus would be or Cincinnati or one of the bigger cities. The people in a smaller town like Jackson or even Portsmouth or some of the kind of river towns, southern Ohio towns, they like to be able to stop in and actually see their attorney and face to face in person interactions. They don't always like just email, text, kind of technology based interactions. They like that face to face, in person, just being able to, if they're running through town, they can just stop in and see their attorney, check on their claim. I would say that's probably one of the biggest things about like a small town in Jackson. They like that in person attorney they can come and see.
No doubt. I was going on Google Maps and I saw the Jackson office there in the plaza right down, off the strip. And I was talking to Bob earlier and I can imagine clients, bringing their manila folder in with their receipts and their all their comments and notes and doctor take, and it really is something that a good firm handshake and knowing the people that's going to represent you for something that's obviously very important to them. Is that something that that you that you welcome, or is that something that you're just getting used to after being out in the city and through law school and whatnot?
So growing up in this and, you know, when I was a child, it was kind of a different time. It wasn't as, I mean, I still remember my great uncle's office had typewriters and, that was when I came to AG Clymer, one of the paralegals heard that I had experience with a typewriter and just blew her mind. So I grew up where like when the in person was kind of the only option they had. So I was very used to that. I still welcome that. I mean, I wasn't an employee of my great uncle's office. I was just the kid running around. And the clients knew me and I kind of got to know them on a more personal level because I wasn't involved in their claim at all at that point. So I got to know the clients on a personal level that maybe an attorney or just an employee doesn't always get to know them. But then I've also, as I've grown up in it, I've seen when they come in and have sometimes they just want a person to talk to because these claims are almost feel life and death to some of them. I mean, it's the only money they have coming in. Sometimes I know around holidays can get rough for them if they're, waiting on a check to come in. That might be the only money they have. So I always encourage the coming in person if it's just to check on your claim, even if it's just you're having a bad day and need someone to talk to.
No, that's important because
I've always enjoyed that part of it.
well, it seems like you're tailor made for this. Then it's good. Let's just jump back. Now you are with AG Climber now. Do you have any asides that Obviously, they've been in the business for a long time as well, serving people with working on the job injuries. What made you want to join this firm specifically, and has it met your expectations?
So my aunt, my mom's sister, is actually the paralegal in our Jackson office. So kind of, I guess, could say a little family thing down there in Jackson, me and her together. They're a medium-sized law firm. It's not just a single practitioner. There's a few of us here, but it has that smaller firm feel to where, the clients can come in and talk to us, and they love Dolly. Dolly's always there to help them, and they like seeing a smiling face. So it had that kind of almost family oriented sort of feel to it. And you can really feel that they care about the clients. They want to do their best for them, but they also just want to, they're there if the client just needs an ear to listen, or just having a rough day and needs to let out a little frustration, where they actually care about the clients, which was a big deal to me.
So you actually, you were auditioning them in your mind for a while naturally through your family connection. So that's good. That fit really is important when look at your future and what you're going to be doing, because it's a lot of work. And so speaking of work, I don't know too awful much about, like, what's the main manufacturing hub or companies that are down around there and Portsmouth and maybe even into Chillicothe? What type of
So
what type of businesses, what makes it up? I know it's blue collar. I just didn't get any specific entities.
So in Jackson County, I guess I'll say, I won't, the in Jackson, the city, there's Bellicio's. It's a food manufacturing plant. They make, like, the frozen TV dinners that you would see
Okay.
at Walmart or Kroger. There's also General Mills in Wellston. So they make, pizza rolls, cereals, a lot of that type stuff. As you branch out to Chillicothe, you get, just recently closed down, but you had like the paper mill. You've got Kenworth, the trucking plant. It's a lot of that blue collar kind of factories, and then you get the smaller kind of professions of like the lumber people that go out and cut down trees. There's the logging and stuff. There's welding. There's all of the blue collar stuff, and then you've got the factories. So I mean, it's all across the board.
So the cases that you anticipate or have already worked on or been privy to, a lot of maybe repetitive injury, or is it like I gotta think it's like maybe a lot of lingering for working on the line, and rather than just one-time events of something catastrophic happening. Is that your experience with the types of claims?
Yeah, it can be a lot of the repetitive injuries of working on like an assembly line or something like that. A lot of like, the wrist or the hands, or even just people being on their feet all day. You can get into some kind of repetitive injuries. But then, I mean, with the factories and stuff, normally if it's not that repetitive injury sort of thing, you get more of the sort of catastrophic injuries where a piece of machinery has malfunctioned or something has gone terribly wrong, and you get into some of those more in-depth claims. So
And so, yeah, you're trying to jam something in an old piece of machinery and something goes awry. Yeah. The repetitive stress and then the one-time event. It's just, what type of advice would you give to someone that, you know, let's talk about the repetitive stress. Like it's been nagging. I really should get it checked out. The reason why I'm asking is that I understand they changed some statute of limitations of the file. Could you go into that, where even if it's nothing, it's worth it to get it checked before you lose that right?
right, so you've got a couple of years to actually file a claim, but the earlier you can document it, if you can go, even if it's just a little problem now, you can document those problems by just going and getting checked. And then, one of the big things in claims, hearing officers and claim reps, they don't like to see big gaps in treatment. They're going to assume if there's a big gap in the timeline that you were perfectly fine and healthy. And that's not always the case. And especially, down in Southern Ohio, you get a lot of the tough guys that
Oh, I was going to say,
they
it's like, yeah, it's okay. Shake it
pop an
off. Right. Yeah.
yeah, take an ibuprofen. I'm good. That's fine. That doesn't always show well in a claim, and a lot of times you can, get over that hurdle of you actually have to show up to the hearing and explain that, a lot of them can't afford to take off work. So it is just you got to take some over the counter medication and get back to it. That's how you survive. But yeah, it's one of the, I would say the biggest tip would be, just get it checked. Just have some kind of a record of it.
And when you mention that it was done at work and that hits your medical record, that does start that clock. So right behind that action would be to reach out to someone like yourself to just see the practical side of it. I mean, the monetary facts of the matter are that there are some time constraints and there's some things that you need to gather before they disappear. Could
There
you,
there are the time
yeah, could you go in, yeah,
there
could you go a little bit of that?
there's the time constraints, and then, I feel like, especially down there, the attorneys kind of get a bad rep of, they think we're just after money. The workers' compensation system is not the easiest system to navigate by any means. It can be a lot for just the injured worker to go try to tackle themselves. But it's that old saying, we don't get paid unless you get paid. It really, I mean, we do this for them. We can't do it for free, but we don't expect money up front. We take a percentage of what we can get them. So, and sometimes I think some clients think attorneys are sharks and are trying to cheat them out of some money. That's not the case. We want the best outcome for the client. We are trying to get them the maximum value out of their claims, because again, if we're getting a percentage, the more money we can get you, and we get paid a little more, and nothing hurts to try to gain a little extra, but we do it for their benefit. We're trying to get them the best outcome that we possibly can.
And you must be doing something right. Like I said, the firm as a whole has been around for a while. And so when it comes time to have the conversation of should we settle or are your injuries ready to draw this to a close or not, that's an important thing because, attorneys, some attorneys are quick to settle, like whether it's personal injury, not take it to trial. So, what I've noticed about AG Clymer, Mitchell, and Portman is that you'll have that conversation and it's very client driven. You explain the options. We can settle this now, or we can keep it going. Could you go in a little bit about the methodology of how that consultation happens?
So yeah, it's very case by case. I mean, like you said, we're very the client kind of steers the ship in that scenario. If the claim has been going on for several years and they're not really having problems with their whatever the injury might have been, if they're no longer with the employer, those can all be things that might lead you to want to settle the claim. Sometimes the system's not the easiest thing. Sometimes it's better to just kind of wrap it up, and then on down the line, if you have, maybe you get re-injured, you can start a new claim if it's with a different employer and you've aggravated it or whatever the case may be. Sometimes it's better just to get out of the system, and if you're having very infrequent flare-ups or something, you just treat like you would treat anything else. Just go to the doctor and get it treated. Then, I mean, there's some where, it's a very active claim and settlement's not, it may not be right.
So yeah, I just wanted to just draw the distinction because it's not just a bunch of clerks, filing paperwork and looking at charts and asking for things. Because especially like with back injuries, from repetitive stress and your back injuries, you need to know that are you moving towards needing surgery or like you said, have you plateaued and you're in a maintenance mode? Now, the practicality of it, you had mentioned that people about losing their paycheck and whatnot during a do you have any insight about like occupational retraining or, trying to reclassify that worker during the process? Could you explain how that works as an option?
Yeah, there's always options. I mean, the whole purpose in workers' compensation, I mean, the goal is to get people back to work. There is vocational rehabilitation to try to gain the skills to get you in either back into your position or into another position. Sometimes, people may have lifelong restrictions after a claim. So you have to kind of adjust to that new lifestyle, the new job choices in that market that would be available to you. There are different, kind of work rehabilitation programs to kind of get you back into the field. And I mean that is the overall that's the perfect scenario. The main goal is to get you back to, we may not always be able to get you exactly where you were before the injury, but we try to get you as close to it as we can.
That makes sense. You also mentioned case by case basis. So some of these have some forks in the road. And I got to think that one of the advantages of being small enough to need you, but large enough to serve you is that should it go different a path? Like, for instance, if you get retaliation for filing a claim, you have a specialty that you don't have to farm out this case and start over. You can handle it in house. Sometimes there's a well, yeah. You tell me else. What can yeah? I don't want to
So
presume I understand the answer, but I got to think that that has a nice safety net of a good supporting staff.
right there, I mean, we have several different departments, and they're all somewhat intertwined in ways that people may not normally think of. So, like you said, if there's some kind of retaliation for filing a claim, we have an employment law section that can pursue those claims because, an employer cannot retaliate against you for filing a claim. That is your right. You are entitled to pursue that claim as much as necessary. We also have Social Security department. So, if whatever in the claim leads to some kind of Social Security if you're up there in age or some kind of Social Security disability, different things, we can help with that. Personal injury. So sometimes, workers like policemen, we've had traveling nurses. If you're, driving a car for your work and you have to go door to door or different things, if you're rear ended, that can be a workers' comp claim because you were on the job. It can also be a personal injury claim because someone hit you and it's a motor vehicle accident. So they all are intertwined, and we all play together here and try to pass it to all the departments that are necessary to try to get the maximum value for our clients.
Excellent. Oh, that's good. That's one of the first things. Like after you, are looking for an attorney, you want to make sure that they can handle no matter which way it goes, and they are capable of giving you your options and really just protecting your rights. Could you sort of expand on maybe some misnomers or about the rights? Like I'm remembering another interview where you know they kept getting these notices and they didn't show up because they thought that's got to be a mistake. The manager will fix that. Could you give us like a scenario about how it's important to not ignore the messages of the structure that you're trying to get your claim from?
Yeah, so through workers' comp, there are a lot of notices. I mean, there are a lot of papers that are going to be coming to you in the mail. Probably one of the more important ones are medical exams throughout a claim. We will have you attend medical exams, but the employer and the Bureau of Workers' Compensation can also request exams. And a lot of the notices should also come to us, so we will coordinate with the client and make them aware of what, you can't ignore, what you should pay attention to. We try to kind of be the filter for that, but sometimes, some may get past us. Employer could mail directly to them, or the bureau could mail directly to them and kind of cut us out of the loop sometimes. Sometimes employers will purposefully try to do that. Um, we always tell the client, if you get anything in the mail, you can send us a picture, you can send us an email, you can bring it in, whatever you feel most comfortable with, and we will help you to make sure you are on the right track. Whether it's something you can ignore, something you need to attend, you'll get notices of different deadlines, you get notices of every time something goes to a hearing, you get a notice of the outcome. There's a lot of papers that will come through the mail, but that's where we come in. We are the guide through the whole process. We really try to be there every step of the way. You can come to us with anything, and we will try to be that filter and make you feel comfortable with whatever the situation is.
Well, it sounds like you're
It can
changing.
be
Yeah,
very overwhelming.
yeah. It sounds like you're changing that perception one task at a time to have like a
Sometimes that's the best you can do. Is
that's all
just
you can
approach
do.
it one task at a time.
Yeah, what you can control, and so applying that knowledge of the system, applying the accessibility, the care, the empathy, knowing that it's a real, and just as people have that perception of attorneys, some people have that perception of people trying to claim workman's comp, that they're trying to get a check while they're out cutting down trees or something, and it's just like it's not true. There are fail safes that weed that out right away. If I'm just seeing a very enhanced value proposition of reaching out, even if you have any type of question. And once you clear that way, that AG Climber becomes the ultimate choice due to your roots and your experience and your philosophy.
And to
Um,
hit on that note, I do think, especially, the Southern Ohio, I talked about, the tough guys and they they don't always want to they don't want to file a claim because they feel like, you know, that they're going to be looked at as milking a system, or like they're, I don't know, they're not as bad off as they are, and they're just trying to get what they can get. Just because you file a claim doesn't mean that you actually have to pursue it. You can always, for the injured worker, you can file a claim and just, it's always best to, treat out of it some, or get that, yearly checkup just to keep it alive in case it would have problems down the road. But you don't actually have to pursue it as hard as some would. It's really a sort of need-based system. There are some clients that want it as that security, uh, safety net, uh, later in life, and there are some that, they need it now. They've lost an arm in a piece of machinery or something. That's traumatic. You need treatment and help. But there are some that, like you said, a back injury. It may it may just ache right now, but it could, the more repetitive type work that could progress into something more major down the line. You want to make sure you have that claim available for treatment if needed.
And one of the few things that all these politicians agree on is that this was created for this exact, you're actually using the system because the employer actually wants you back if you can come back in the speedy of time. It's just, and the state wants you to stop the downfall of your deterioration by not ignoring it. So yeah, it's hard to overcome stereotypes, and we've discussed a few today. But bit by bit, education and taking the time to explain, and that's another reason why you should reach out to AG Climber if you have any type of questions, because the consultations are free. They're not even right. I mean, there's no
Right.
strings attached.
Correct. Yes, you can always, call and get a consultation set up. Those are free. We will kind of talk you through the next steps and everything. We'll evaluate the claim, and then, we're always taking new clients. We always hope everyone will come to us. There's a few big names around for workers' comp, but there's only a few of us. It's a pretty small pool. And we try to stand out with that personality of the firm, and being the ones that we're not pushing the injured workers to pursue things that they may not want to. We try to be that shoulder for them to lean on, kind of help them along the way. We want to be more help than a burden to them in a what can already be an overwhelming and sort of tough system to get through.
Absolutely, and sometimes that's the best you can hope for is some good advice, sound advice, and then when the time comes, very smart, very sharp attorneys that will definitely go shoulder to shoulder with you. So Stephen, I appreciate the time. There's a lot of insights as you grow your practice, and as you we'll check back in with you for some highlight cases and some great wins. And that's always good to know. But in the meantime, thank you for laying the basis of what's available to the people of your area. And it's a real office with a real door. You can come in and sit down, and we're just glad to help because ultimately we love what we do, and we're providing a good service. So I
Yep,
appreciate your
yep,
time.
all for the people. But thank you for sitting down and talking to me, and look forward to that next check-in.
Sounds good. You take care.